안녕하세요, 여러분. 제 이름은 릴입니다. And today we're going to be talking about grammar. I freaking love grammar. It is my favorite part of Korean, about learning Korean. It just has so many nuances that are so different from English, and it is so spectacular to just read that. It's amazing. And to be able to understand it and to read between the lines and not just understand what it's saying, but what it means. You know what I mean? So, okay. First of all, in my other video, I said, you know what I mean? And whatever, like whatever, a lot. And I was kind of assuming that the person watching this knew what I meant. But this time I'm gonna try not to do that. It's very involuntary. It just happens when I'm explaining something and I'm like, it doesn't really matter. But no, I will say what I'm thinking. I will not say it doesn't really matter, okay? So the first thing we're going to learn today is very simple. We're going to learn about markers. Markers can mean topic markers, location markers, object markers, subject markers. Like, there are a lot of different markers, okay? We're just gonna do a few of the simple ones for what we're gonna be doing today. Very easy, okay? So I don't really have notes. I'm just using, again, if you saw my other video, I'm using notes that I've created over time. Like, this is from September of 2024. Once I do start getting to the point where I'm learning and not really teaching, because I want to learn with you guys as well and kind of describe what I'm learning, then I think I will have more notes. This is 18-year-old me, bro. Like, I'm 19 now. Okay, it's not a big difference, but let's just say that I'm different. Okay, so object marker. That's what this looks like. Oh, and that brings me to another thing. I was told that I should also put romanization in my video, like not just have the Korean characters, but also what the Korean would look like if it was written in English. And to that, I say no. I am really against romanization. First of all, with sound change rules, it doesn't always have the sound change rule evident in it, so it just would be wrong in the way that you would think to pronounce it. And also, if you heavily rely on romanization or your brain associates romanization with the Korean, it's going to be harder for you to develop and grow your reading skills, okay? Like, if I see something written in Korean, I'm going to immediately read it. I know what it's saying, but if I'm someone who relied on romanization, it would be harder for me to read the Korean letters. I'm like, wait, what does that look like if it was in English? I don't want to be translating letters from English and Korean. I don't need to do that. So I want that to be the same for you guys. It's going to be hard in the beginning, but it's about the long term. Okay, so first, yes, object markers. So we have lil and il. Object markers are basically what the verb is attached to. Like, if I'm reading a book, the object is the book and the reading is the verb. And the verb reading is like happening to that object. Does that make sense? The reading is happening to the object. And then with the sentence, I watch TV. Watch is the verb and TV is the object. So like the object is what the verb is happening to. I don't know if that makes complete sense. There's probably a better definition and I might just put it here. Okay. Because like, you know, I understand it, but it's kind of hard to reiterate that to you. So, and you know what that is based on the fact that the iung is first. It was placed after a noun that ends in a consonant. And this is really interesting because it also has a sound change rule. I didn't actually realize this until down the line, like many months down the line, because I wasn't taught this. But when you have a word and the next syllable is an iung, meaning it's like basically void, nothing's there. You take the last letter of the syllable before it and you bring it to that one. So for instance, 책, meaning book, and 을, the object marker, is gonna sound like 책을, 책을, not 책을, 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 책을. Because the k sound is going to be basically attached to that second syllable. Do you understand? And then when a noun or the object or whatever is going to be ending in a vowel, so let's say TB, which means TV, because there's no V in Korean, it's just B. So TB, it ends in the E sound. So you're going to be adding the lil, okay? That is still the same thing. Lil and il are both object markers. It depends on what the object ends with. So TV를. See? So if I were to say I watch TV, 저는 means I. We're going to talk about it all the time. I'm just giving you a sentence for example. 저는 I TV를 TV with the object marker 봐요. 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 meaning watch, conjugated, okay? So that's object markers. They're very simple. Sometimes in casual conversation, they are omitted, which is kind of confusing sometimes. I never know if I should omit them or not. But for the sake of learning, just always use the markers. Just markers in general sometimes are omitted, but just always use them, okay? But just know that in daily conversation, it might be omitted, casual stuff. So next, we're going to talk about topic markers. Topic markers is a really touchy subject for me because I still barely understand them. Topic markers and subject markers, which we will get into like literally right after this, they're very similar, and it confuses me. And this is one of the nuances in Korean that I still don't understand because it comes with experience. So topic markers set the topic of the sentence. So if the sentence is about me, I'm going to say 저는. 는 is the topic marker. 저 means I, me, whatever. And 는, again, is used when the thing it's attached to ends with a vowel. So 저 ends with a vowel. So 는. If, again, the sentence was talking about a book, that's what the entire sentence is about. I'm going to say 책은, 책은. And remember with the sound change rule, 책은. 은 is the topic marker in the case of the 책. Really cool, right? So yes, it is the topic of the sentence. And I'm going to explain the subject marker, and the reason I'm explaining it right after is because I need to compare them to you so you kind of know the difference. So subject marker is used to indicate the noun that is the subject of an action. Remember how object marker was what the verb is happening to? The subject marker is what is basically doing the verb. So subject markers 이 and ka. So 이, again, would be after a word that ends with a consonant. And then ka would be after a word that ends in a vowel. So subject markers are used to indicate the noun that is the subject of an action. Let's use 책, for example, 책, which will have the subject marker 이 because it ends in a consonant. 책이. Well, okay. That wouldn't make sense actually, because when is a book doing an action? Unless it's like a cartoon, the book isn't doing anything. So let me think, what would be a better one? Actually, we're gonna use hana, which is like hana in Korean, okay? Hana. So hana is gonna have ka attached to it. Hana as in that's someone's name. So hanaka, because hana ends in a vowel. Hanaka. Hanaka, and then you're gonna say what she's doing. So hanaka TV 봐요. Or TV를 봐요, okay? Hannah watches TV. So that is the subject, that is what someone is doing. And you may be asking, what is the difference between using a subject marker and using a topic marker? Because we could just say 하나는 TV를 봐요, which basically means the same thing, right? Not really. Again, this is like a nuanced thing. So the topic marker is basically saying as for blank. So remember when I said 저는 레일라입니다, or 저는 TV를 봐요. You're saying, as for me, my name is Layla. As for me, I watch TV. You're basically, it can be used when you're comparing something, like, she doesn't watch TV, but as for me, I do. You know, it can be used for that. It can be like, if you're talking about you in general, you could say, for me, I watch TV, instead of just like, I watch TV. It's very different. Kind of. Or like if you're in a group setting and someone's asking what is everybody's favorite hobbies, and someone's like, oh, I like walking dogs. I don't know. I like walking dogs. I like chores. Red flag. And then you would say, as for me, I like watching TV. Do you understand? It can be like that. And then for a subject marker, that can be used just for like what's doing the action. Like, oh, who's watching TV? Oh, I'm watching TV. Because the subject, I'm the subject, you know what I mean? Because if you see the difference, you're asking who's doing something and you're answering because what's the action, that is the focus. It's not about you. It's not, oh, as for me, they didn't ask about you. They're asking about who's doing that. Oh, who's going over there today? As for me, I didn't ask what you're doing. I asked who's going over there today. So if they're asking who's doing that, who's going over there, then you would say 제가, which is the conjugated form of saying me. 제가 is me or I with the subject marker, and 저는 is me or I with like the topic marker. There's different ways to conjugate it. We don't really have to focus on that right now, but I'm just letting you know. I saw someone explain this in a really cool way with topic markers. You can imagine that if you're in a conversation, there's a huge sign above you and it has the topic on it. So if you're changing the topic, you would have a topic marker. But if it's kind of the same thing, then you don't need to, because you don't need to change the sign that's above you. So if I was talking about, again, 저는 TV를 봐요, which means I watch TV in this case, right? And then I continue to say 저는, and then say I like cooking, whatever. I'm not gonna add 저는 for every single sentence I say, because soon enough, bro, they know I'm talking about me. 저는, yes, you. We get it, as for you, right? That's a very good example of Korean omitting pronouns, because sometimes you just know what's going on, and a lot of this is from topic markers. You have initiated the topic of the conversation. Why are you going to repeat the same exact topic? I know you're talking about yourself. But if you're saying 저는 TV를 봐요, I watch TV, but then you're like, oh, but my mom, blah, 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 then I say 저는, me. Second sentence would be 엄마는. 엄마 means mom. And then it'd be like, as for my mom. That would make sense to use a topic marker in that case, because you're comparing the two things, and it's also starting a new conversation or a new topic of conversation, basically, because like it's not about you anymore. You know what I mean? Okay, I hope I explained that well, because I still kind of don't understand it. So again, if I did this wrong, please let me know in the comments, please. I would love, because I have been researching so much about kind of trying to discover those nuances, and it's still hard, and it's still hard for me to understand, but it really does just come with time, and I understand that. So in my book, I kind of did a huge time skip from like September to March to June. So I really don't have any notes about grammar, as in like early learning of grammar. I am not gonna lie, I use ChatGPT. I use ChatGPT. Oh my god. I use ChatGPT. I started using it for language learning like during winter breaks. This is around December. And that's why there's such a huge gap between September and March in my book. Because all of my notes were electronic, and it was in the ChatGPT thing. It was explaining to me all the tenses, all of this, all of that. So I don't have any notes of that. That is lost media, okay? But it actually really did help, unfortunately. But I will say that if you're beginning to learn a language, it is rough to use ChatGPT, because it is wrong sometimes. And I do worry that sometimes I don't correct it, or sometimes I don't catch it and I learn the wrong thing. And that's what makes it really difficult. But for someone who is just beginning a hobby or just beginning a skill, it's hard to put a lot of money into, oh, I need a tutor, oh, I need textbooks, whatever, when it's just been a couple months of me seeing that I'm interested in something, discovering if you really want to continue with it. So I'm not gonna like pay for a tutor or pay for a bunch of notebooks or textbooks or whatever, you know what I mean? So I was just like, let me just use ChatGPT as my tutor, and it was actually really good. And I still use it sometimes, because it's really good with, you know, conversation and other nuanced things that I'm not going to know by searching it up on Google, obviously. But again, I know that authentic human connection culture is very important and much better and much more reliable than ChatGPT. But again, I don't live in Korea right now. I cannot just ask I don't know people that I can just ask certain things. But I also, on top of ChatGPT, use YouTube and podcasts. Podcasts I use to ingrain different intonations and different ways people speak, because if I listen to it every single day, it kind of gets ingrained in my head. And then YouTube I use to learn a lot of new topics. I use to watch and grind different social interactions in Korean, so I kind of understand that as well. There are a lot of good things YouTube is for, and I use it to also quiz myself and to learn new things. It's really nice. But yeah, that was long. I'm probably gonna edit it a little bit, but that's basically it with what was going on between September and March. Okay, and now we're about to get to June. This is when I just start writing review, what I already know, and just writing it down, kind of like a dump. Stuff that I don't know, stuff that I do know. So the remaining of this video, I want to talk about tenses. Tenses, very, very important, okay? Gosh, I don't even have any notes on this, so I have to actually wing it. Okay, so we're first gonna talk about how to conjugate a verb in general, okay? And we're gonna start with the verb 먹다. We're gonna do 먹다, okay? So 먹다 means to eat. Very simple, you know, 먹다, to eat, 먹. Oh, mukbangs. You guys know what mukbangs are, right? That's how it is in English, but it's actually pronounced mukbang in Korean. But yeah, muk. So there, look at that. See, now you know. Now you can register that in your brain. So that little ta thing at the end, take it off. We don't need it. We don't need it right now. We're going to take it off, and we are going to add an ending, depending on what we're doing, what the person is doing, who we're even talking to. Because, you know, we have honorific stuff. You know, if you're speaking to someone older than you, you're going to use a different ending than if it's someone who's younger than you. And I love Korean for this because even though the age thing is kind of confusing in honorifics, you know, like how in Spanish you have to change the ending depending on what the subject is. Like, vamos. Vamos is let's go, whatever. And then you add o. So if you're saying something like I see, it would be yo veo, because you are the subject, I am the subject, like that. But in Korean, it doesn't matter who's talking. Like, again, the subject gets omitted sometimes, so it really doesn't matter. Basically, it just matters what tense it is and who you're talking to. Very fun, right? So we're only going to be doing polite tense for now. I do know honorific tense, but it's just harder for me to describe and to explain because I barely understand it fully. I originally taught myself just polite because that's what you can use day-to-day conversation with anybody. But honorific is mostly for really important settings, like maybe a job interview, if you're talking to your mom's coworker. It's really specific, but basically someone who's really older than you or something like that. So I didn't want to use something that I wasn't going to be using every day, but I definitely think knowing that is very important because you're going to be in a lot of really fancy situations and you're going to need it. But yeah, right now we're just gonna work on polite because you can really use it with anybody, okay? If you use polite ending to someone and they're older than you, they're not gonna be mad at you more so than if you like used a casual or impolite ending, okay? So yeah, polite ending. So we're gonna start with present tense, okay? So you're gonna either add ayo or ayo to the verb. 먹다, right? You took off the da. This is so hard to do without a script. I think next video I'm gonna have a script because this is really hard. I have nothing in front of me right now. So you're gonna add ayo or ayo. If the verb stem, which is 먹 in this case, the most recent vowel, if it is not a or o, then you use ayo. If it is a or o, you would use ayo. I really want to get a whiteboard because it's much easier to do that because I'm kind of just talking to you and hoping that editing Layla knows what I'm talking about and is like writing it for you guys. Okay, so in this case, 먹다, 먹, you would add ayo because the a in 먹 already is going to make you have to say ayo, okay? 먹어요 means eat. So 저는 먹어요, I eat. That's literally what it means. 저는 먹어요. And also you don't have to add 저는 if it is implied. So yeah, it's just a polite present way of saying I eat. Now let's use an example of using ayo. We could use 일어나다, which is to wake up. 일어나 is without the da, so that's the verb stem. Oh, this is actually a really good example. In this case, we already have an a at the end, okay? And na. You don't have to add another a and then yo. You just basically add the a and the na together and it's still na. You know what I mean? You're not saying 나요, 일어나요. No. 일어나요. And then that's just saying I wake up. And it's actually the same for 가다. 가다 is to go. So again, take off the da, 가, and they're going to add yo to it because it already ends in a. So you don't need to say 가요. Understand? Isn't it so easy? Isn't it so fun? It's so fun. Okay, so what else should I say? Okay, yes, let's work on past tense. This one, you're gonna write 먹다 again. Let's use 먹다 again. Take off the da. The past tense is very similar to the present tense, okay? So think of ayo, ayo. But instead of having just ayo and ayo, you add a 상시역. So it's gonna be the double S sound. Basically, that's what that is. So it'll be as어요, 어서요. And you're also adding that 어 after this 상시역. And that doesn't matter what the letter is before it, whatever. It's always going to be that 어 sound, okay? Always before the 요. So as어요, 어서요. The 어요 stays the same. You don't do anything to that part. Just the part that has this 상시역 in it, okay? So if I want to say that I ate, 먹었어요. If I want to say I went, 갔어요. If I want to say I woke up, 일어나서요. I remember when I first learned these though, it took me forever to get these. So I completely understand if it's hard to grasp. We're going to start with the future tense now. So this one's a bit quirky. right here is like the formula for it, okay? This little dash means that this part is being added to the verb stem. So sometimes you just add a lil underneath the verb and then the rest of it, sometimes you have to make it ul. So in the case of 가다, when you take off the da, it's just ka, which ends in a vowel. So you're going to be adding a lil underneath it. You don't have to do ka, ul, just kal, okay? And then 가예요. If I was saying a verb that didn't have a vowel, 먹다, you add ul, because you basically need to bring that letter up to the sound anyway. So it can be 먹을 거예요. I think that is a good place to stop today. Thank you so much for watching, and we are not even we're not even a centimeter into how nuanced Korean grammar is, so I cannot wait to take you along for that ride. 안녕히 계세요.